Imagine working harder every year, yet the dream of owning a home keeps moving further away. Across the world, housing prices are rising at record speed, while ordinary people feel poorer than ever. Salaries struggle to keep up, living costs continue climbing, and homes are increasingly treated as investments instead of basic necessities. So why is this happening? Why do houses keep getting more expensive while people's purchasing power keeps shrinking? In this video, we'll break down the key reasons behind this growing gap and what it means for the future of housing. Today, we will talk about why housing prices keep rising while people get poorer. So before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. 1. Introduction: the growing housing affordability crisis. Over the past few decades, housing has become one of the most serious economic challenges faced by individuals and families across the world. In many countries, the price of homes has increased dramatically, while incomes for the majority of workers have remained stagnant or grown very slowly. This imbalance has created what economists call a housing affordability crisis, where average people can no longer afford to buy homes in the areas where they live or work. In fact, housing prices in many developed countries have risen far faster than wages since the global financial crisis and especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. Studies show that the ratio of house prices to income has exceeded 130 in several countries, meaning home prices have grown significantly faster than household earnings since 2015. As a result, millions of families are spending a larger portion of their income on rent or mortgages, leaving less money for healthcare, education, savings, and other necessities. The situation has created a paradoxical economic environment where property values continue to climb while the financial well-being of many ordinary people declines. 2. The gap between wages and housing costs. One of the main reasons housing prices keep rising while people get poorer is the growing gap between wages and housing costs. Over the past several decades, wage growth for middle and lower income workers has remained relatively slow, while the cost of housing has increased rapidly. When wages do not keep up with rising housing prices, people must devote a larger share of their income just to secure a place to live. In many urban areas, this problem is particularly severe because high demand pushes prices even higher. For example, in many housing markets today, the average home costs several times the annual income of an average worker, making homeownership increasingly unattainable. In England and Wales, the median home price in 2024 was about 7.7 times the average annual earnings of a full-time employee. Such ratios indicate that homes have become far less affordable than they were in previous generations. This widening gap between income and housing prices forces people to rent longer, delay buying homes, or move to less desirable locations, ultimately contributing to the feeling that people are getting poorer even when economies grow. 3. Housing supply shortages and population growth. Another key factor driving rising housing prices is the shortage of available homes relative to the number of people who need them. In many countries, the population continues to grow, while the construction of new homes has not kept pace with demand. When demand exceeds supply, prices inevitably rise. This imbalance has been a major contributor to the global housing crisis. For instance, recent reports indicate that the United States alone has a housing shortage of about 4 million homes, a gap that has widened over the past decade due to underbuilding and increasing demand from new households. The shortage is even more pronounced in major cities where employment opportunities attract large populations. Urban areas often face limited land availability, high construction costs, and regulatory restrictions, all of which make it difficult to build enough housing. As a result, competition among buyers intensifies, pushing property prices higher and making housing increasingly unaffordable for many people. 4. Rising construction costs and economic inflation. Housing prices are also rising because the cost of building new homes has increased significantly. Construction materials such as steel, lumber, cement, and glass have become more expensive due to global supply chain disruptions, inflation, and increased demand. Labor shortages in the construction industry have also driven up wages for builders and contractors, adding further costs to new developments. When developers face higher costs to build homes, they typically pass those costs on to buyers through higher property prices. Additionally, inflation across the economy has raised the cost of land, transportation, and energy, all of which contribute to the overall price of housing. Rising interest rates can also increase borrowing costs for developers and buyers, making mortgages more expensive and reducing affordability. For example, mortgage rates in some markets rose from around 3% to over 7% within a few years, significantly increasing monthly payments for homeowners. As construction and financing costs rise, fewer affordable homes are built, worsening the affordability crisis. 5. Real estate as an investment asset. Another reason housing prices continue to rise is the growing perception of real estate as an investment rather than simply a place to live. Over the past 2 decades, investors, corporations, and wealthy individuals have increasingly purchased residential properties as financial assets. These buyers often purchase multiple homes to rent them out or hold them as long-term investments, expecting prices to appreciate. When large investors enter the housing market, they increase competition for properties and reduce the number of homes available for ordinary buyers. Institutional investors and private equity firms have become significant players in many housing markets, buying single-family homes and converting them into rental properties. This trend can drive up both home prices and rents because investors often have more financial resources than individual homebuyers. As housing becomes a commodity for wealth generation, the market becomes less accessible to average people who simply need affordable shelter. 6. Government policies and zoning restrictions. Government policies and land use regulations also play an important role in rising housing prices. Many cities have strict zoning laws that limit what types of housing can be built and where they can be constructed. For example, some areas restrict the development of apartment buildings or multifamily housing, allowing only single-family homes. These restrictions reduce housing density and limit the supply of affordable options. In addition, complex permitting processes and regulatory requirements can delay construction projects for years, increasing costs for developers. These costs are ultimately reflected in higher housing prices for buyers and renters. While zoning laws are often intended to maintain neighborhood character or environmental standards, they can unintentionally contribute to housing shortages and rising prices. Governments also sometimes fail to invest enough in affordable housing programs, leaving many low-income families without access to safe and affordable homes. 7. Urbanization and the demand for city living. The global trend toward urbanization has also intensified housing affordability problems. As more people move to cities in search of employment, education, and better living standards, the demand for housing in urban areas increases dramatically. Cities often have limited space for expansion, meaning housing supply cannot easily grow to meet rising demand. As a result, property values in urban centers rise significantly faster than in rural areas. In some major global cities, housing prices have increased so rapidly that young people and middle-class families can no longer afford to live there. The problem is further intensified by gentrification, where older neighborhoods are redeveloped into more expensive housing areas. If you liked this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up. Leave a comment and click the button to subscribe.